going through this. Each letter stands for a different habit that we need to have in our lives. The H stands for hanging out with God. That is the habit of a daily quiet time. The A stands for accountability with other believers. The habit of being accountable, not just to others for ourselves, but also for serving others. The letter B is for the importance of Bible study. And not so much attending a Bible study on Sunday mornings, but personal Bible study is the value that God has placed there. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the letter I, the importance of involvement in church, and why it is so important that we have koinonia, that we have fellowship one with another. This morning, we're going to look at the letter T for tithing. And we're going to answer the question, why does God want me to give? The subject of tithing is one that many pastors and priests are reluctant to address. Last Sunday at dinner, as we were sitting and enjoying our fried chicken, because that's becoming our tradition on Sundays to have fried chicken over at the Mason Jar. I don't get any commission for that. But as we were sitting there and I was telling my brother and sister-in-law that this Sunday we were going to be talking about tithing, she said, hey, it's kind of early. She said, don't you think you ought to be there for a year or two before you talk about that? And I said, let's just go ahead and get it out of the way. I said, that way it's less painful. But churches are reluctant to do that. And here's the thing, is Jesus talked about money as much or more than he talked about anything else. You got to ask, why is that? In fact, the Bible talks about it more than anything else. And when the Bible talks about money, it always talks about it in relationship with the first commandment. That we should not have any other God before God. That he should be our point of worship. I want to share with you a story about a church. It's a little bit different kind of church. This particular church, charged admission. You would come in, and as you walked in the door, there would be someone there, and they would sell you a ticket. You paid $5 to come into the church, and you $10 if you wanted a good seat. Now, a good seat is not like a movie theater. In a movie theater, or in a concert, or in a play, the good seats are in the front. But in church, where's the good seats? In the back. So if you want the back row seat, you had to pay $7.50. But it was $5 for just general admission if you just want to sit anywhere else. And so they came in there, and the pastor was going to speak about tithing this particular Sunday. And before he got up to speak, this is one of those churches where they pass the plate around. And so the plate gets passed around the room, all the way through the room, and it comes back, and it's empty. And the pastor says, wait a second, folks, you're not understanding this. The purpose of this plate going around the room is for you to put money in the plate. I'm going to give you a second chance because I don't want anybody to go here, leave here, thinking, oh man, if I only had another chance. So they sent the plate around the room. It goes by even faster. This time, 3 strips around, it comes back up front, it is empty. The pastor gets up and says, now listen, brothers and sisters. So obviously, what we have here is a failure to understand. He didn't really say that. I saw that in the movie. I thought I'd throw that in. He said, we have a failure to understand. He says, when a church first starts, it's just like a child. In a church, when it first starts, it's got to crawl. I had a group of people who were very charismatic, and they were over on the side of the worship center. They sat together. And they said, make it crawl, Rev, make it crawl. And the pastor said, is after the church crawled, it's got to stand up and walk. And they're getting into it now. So, I mean, the other folks, they're like, hey, this is a pretty good deal. So they join with the charismatic folks and they say, hey, make it walk, Rev. Make it walk. And he says, after a church has walked, it's going to run. And the whole church was excited and they all stood on their feet and raised their hands and they exclaimed, make it run, Rev! Make it run! And the pastor said, for this church to run, it takes money. And they all sat down and said, let it crawl, Rev. Let it crawl. It's a funny thing about money, how it involves so much of our attention and our affection and our allegiance when it really is not that important. So I want to give you this morning 7 reasons why tithing makes for a great life. 7 reasons why tithing makes for a great life. Now, here at Mid-Florida Lakes, we don't pass a plate around the room. We have, I know some people are, and I'm not trying to be silly here, but some people are a little bit confused because we have a fellowship time, and the fellowship time has food that is brought by volunteers. By the way, there's a list back there. You can sign up to volunteer. You know, we serve God by serving others. And you can volunteer to get some little snacks. You know, there's people who on the way here in the morning, they just swing by Publix and zip in there and, you know, see what's on, buy one, get one, and they buy 1 box and they get 2, they come up here and they throw it on the table. Some other folks, we got some folks who are, I don't have permission to say their names, but we have some folks here who are some amazing cooks and bakers, and they throw some cookies out there. But you know, the church is a body. We got to all work together. And so there's a list back there. You can sign up. We're not asking you to sign up for the rest of your life. We actually just sign up one Sunday. Sign up to bring some cookies or some treats or something back there. Melons, something healthy for a change. But, you know, the thing about it is it can either be good or it can be healthy. I don't know why it can't be good and healthy. I don't know why that doesn't work out. But we can do that. So I want to give you, we have a plate back there as well. And the plate is not there just for the food. The plate is actually, our tithing plate is in the back of the room. Some of you haven't figured that out yet. That's okay, because we don't really advertise it. We kind of keep it low-key on that. But that plate back there is for tithing. And so we're going to be talking about 7 reasons this morning why tithing makes for a great life. And if you don't like today's sermon, well, you got to deal with God. Don't deal with me. So anyway, let's talk about this. All right, number 1. 7 reasons why tithing makes for a great life. Number 1. Giving makes me like God. Giving makes me like God. Why? Because God gave. Well, what did God give? Well, let's look at a couple verses here. They're there on your handout. They're on the PowerPoint behind me. All right? In Leviticus chapter 20, verse 24, it reads this way. And I promise you, actually, I promised, past tense, I promise you, you will inherit their land. Since I will, circle this in your bulletin, I will give, that's God speaking. God's a giver. In case you're not sure, the next line says, I'll give you the land to possess, a land flowing with milk and honey. God doesn't just give the scraps, He gives the best. He didn't give them the desert. He gave them the best land. They're still fighting, by the way, they're still fighting over that piece of property to this day. Now look at this. I am Yahweh, your God. In Hebrew that reads, I am Yahweh, your Elohim. In other words, he's saying, I am Yahweh, which is God's covenant name. It's the name that He uses when He makes a covenant with us. But He's also saying, not only am I your covenant God, I am your God Almighty. I am Yahweh, your God, who set you apart from the people. Leviticus 20:24. And then in 1 Peter, because, you know, there's other people who says, okay, Old Testament is old. So let's look at the New Testament. Peter says this, praise the God and the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, according to His great mercy, He has given us, circle that phrase, He has given us, what did He give us? A new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. You say, well, okay, fine. That's Old Testament, but that's Old Testament. And then but Peter denied Christ. So let's go to John, the beloved apostle, and let's see what he says about God. He says, look at how great a love the Father has given us, that we should be called God's children. And we are. The reason the world does not know us is that it didn't know him. Look at how great a love the Father has what? Given us. God is a giving God. He's not just a loving God, he's a giving God. And if I'm going to be like God, I need to be a giver as well. Second thing about tithing, how it makes us like God and how it makes for a great life, is giving proves my obedience to God. It proves my obedience to God. Look at this phrase from Proverbs 3:9. Honor the Lord with your possessions. There's no question mark there. It doesn't begin with, well, if you feel like it. It doesn't. It's a command. It's a declarative statement. Honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first produce of your entire harvest. The story goes that there were two men marooned on an island. And one man was pacing back and forth. He was worried and he was scared. While the other man just sat back. He was getting suntan. He wasn't worried about a thing. The first man said to the second, he says, aren't you afraid that we're going to die here? And the second man said, no. I make $100,000 a week and I tithe faithfully to my church every week. I guarantee you, my pastor will find me. Malachi 3:10 says this, bring the full tenth to the storehouse so that there may be food in my house. And look, this is the only place, circle this, underline this, make a star, highlight this, whatever you got to do. This is the only place in the Bible that God uses this phrase. It's the only place in the Bible that God says, test me. The only time God gives us permission to test him is in bringing the full tithe to the storehouse. Test me in this way, says the Lord of hosts. See if I will not open the floodgates of heaven and pour out a blessing for you without measure. Now let me tell you this before we go on. All right? Tithing is not like buying a guaranteed to win lotto card. All right? It doesn't work like that. God says, test me, because he's looking to see if we're willing to be obedient to him. And if we're obedient to him, then he treats us like his children. So the first reason is that giving makes us like God. Second reason is giving proves my obedience to God. The third reason that tithing makes for a great life is that giving is the antidote for materialism. You ever heard of a guy named Howard Hughes? Howard Hughes was the richest man in the world at the time of his death. He was financially the richest man in the world at the time of his death. Personally, and with regards to relationships, he was the poorest man in the world. Howard Hughes, the richest man in the world, died of a simple ailment that any first-year resident could have cured. But because he was so materialistic and he was so focused on his money and his possessions, he became a recluse and he didn't trust anyone. Giving is the antidote to materialism. Paul writes this to Timothy. He says, instruct those who are rich in this present world not to be conceited or to fix their hope on the uncertainty of riches. But, the implication is, fix your hope on, that's the implication, but on God who richly supplies us with all the things to enjoy. Look, there was a guy who was really wealthy, And he went out and he bought two things. He bought a brand new Rolex and he bought a brand new car. I mean, this wasn't a cheap car. This was a nice car. It was a top-of-the-line Rolls Royce, handcrafted. He had the top-of-the-line gold Rolex. I think it's a model called the President. It's solid gold. They carve it out and they put the parts in it. And he's riding down the road, and somebody cut him off in traffic, and he swerved to miss, and the car went over the edge, crashed through the guardrail, and went over the edge of the mountain. And just before the car goes over the edge, the guy opens the door, undoes the seatbelt, opens the door, and he bails out, and the car goes over, and he's kind of rolled on the ground right there. But he was injured, and he's sitting on the side of the road, and he's looking over the edge, and he's got his head in his hand, and he's saying, "Oh, my new car, I can't believe my new car is destroyed down there." And by this time, one of the other drivers on the road comes running over and says, Sir, when you came out of the car, you injured your arm, and your arm is missing from the elbow down." And he looks over and says, "Oh, no, not my new Rolex, too." Giving is the cure is the antidote for materialism. We got to get our perspective right. And Paul says to Timothy, he's to instruct those who are rich in the world to have a good perspective about things. Look, there's nothing wrong with having money. What's wrong is how we use it. The fourth thing, if I'm going to have a great life, I got to tithe. And the fourth reason to tithe is because giving strengthens my faith in God. Look at this verse from Proverbs 3:5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding." What do we do with our money? We use our own brains. We use our own common sense on how to deal with our money. The Bible says, don't trust in your own bubble. Don't trust in your own understanding. Trust in the Lord. Look, recently I saw a bumper sticker on a car, because you don't have bumper stickers on motorcycles. But you could, but it would just have one word, because it's a little bitty fender. But anyway, seriously, there was a bumper sticker on this car the other day I saw. It said this: "Tithe if you love Jesus, because any fool can honk." Yesterday, on the way back from New Orleans, as I was driving back, I got to go through Mobile, and I-10 in Mobile goes under the river. You go through a tunnel, and traffic was going real slow, and so we were just kind of creeping through there, and I could hear people behind me. They thought it was a lot of fun. They started honking in the tunnel. I'm like, "Listen, y'all vibrate these walls every time you honk with them sound waves, so leave that alone. I'm at the bottom of this thing." I mean, I can hold my breath for a while, not that long. So any fool can honk. Psalm 37:3 says this. Before we get to that, let me share this. Missionary Jim Elliot said this. If you don't know who Jim Elliot was, I'll tell you in just a minute. But Jim Elliot said this: "He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. What the Bible says in Psalm 37:3 is this: "Trust in the Lord and do what is good. Dwell in the land and live securely." Let me tell you about Jim Elliot. He who is no fool gives up what he cannot keep to get what he cannot lose. Jim Elliot was a missionary. He went to South America, and he tried to reach this unreached people group. And these people were known as murderers. They would just kill and assassinate whoever got in contact with them. It cost Jim Elliot his life. Him and 4 other missionaries were killed on a sandbar by spears. They were armed with firearms, but they had already decided that they would not shoot in self-defense, because any of those tribal people they killed, because they didn't know Jesus, would not go to heaven. And so they gave up their lives where they could have defended themselves. They were heavily armed with firearms. However, that's not the end of the story. end of the story is Jim Elliot's wife and children, and the wife and children of the other missionaries ended up moving in. And that tribe not only became a tribe of Christians, but they became a tribe of missionaries to other tribes in that jungle. Why would we try to hold on to what we cannot hold on to instead of in lieu of gaining what we cannot lose? So, giving, 7 reasons. First off, giving makes me like God. Giving proves my obedience to God. Giving is the antidote to materialism. Giving strengthens my faith in God. But also, giving is an investment in eternity. Giving is an investment in eternity. Excuse me. 1 Timothy 6, 17 through 19 says this. Do good to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, storing up for themselves the treasure of a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is life indeed. Giving contributes to my future. Giving is an investment in eternity. I didn't realize when I coughed, my brain was going to shut down. 6th reason that giving makes for a great life is because giving results in blessings. Giving results in blessings. The Bible says a generous person will be blessed, for he shares his food with the poor. And I just want to share this with you. All right? This is not a stock portfolio. We're talking about giving. And I want you to understand, in all of this isn't just giving to the church. This is being a giving person in your community, being a giving person in your family, being a giving person in your world. And it's not just what you carry in your wallet, it's also what you carry in your heart. It's not just giving the dollars that I have, but it's also giving of the energy that I have, and giving of the wisdom that I have, giving of the love that I have, giving of who I am. All of this, we have to take money. Yes, money's a part of it, but it is not all of it. The thing about it is, the 2 things that we hoard more than anything else is we hoard our talents and our abilities, and we hoard our money. There are people who can do things in a church. That's why it's important to be involved in a church. But involvement in church means I have to be giving. And when we give, it results in blessing. And it may not always be a tangible blessing. Second Corinthians, Paul writes this. Remember this. The person who sows sparingly will reap sparingly. And the person who sows generously will reap generously. So giving results in blessing. Giving is an investment in eternity. Giving strengthens my faith. Giving is the antidote to materialism. Giving proves my obedience to God. Giving makes me like God. And giving draws me closer to God. Jesus says this. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. You show me a copy of your calendar and of your checkbook and of your priorities, and I can tell you what you worship. Now, I'm not saying that you have to spend every minute of every day at church. It'd be hard to do that here because we only have the building 1 day a week. I'm not saying you have to spend every penny you make. on the church. I'm not saying that. Don't hear that. I'm saying you take that discretionary time that you have. You take that discretionary income that you have. You take that discretionary skills and ability. You take those things where you have that you have discretion over, that you have the freedom to assign that time to. And you show me how you use those things, that extra, that abundance, that overage. You show me how to use it. And look, I'm not judging you. I'm just telling you, same thing in my life. You look at, well, what do I do during my free time? Where do I spend that? Where do I spend extra money? And some of you think, extra money, what's that? It's an oxymoron. It's like, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, right? But what I'm telling you is this. You look at what you do with the extra that you have. Let me give you a challenge today. I'll give you a challenge. Some of you may already be doing this. But you take a container and put it in your laundry room. And take another container and put it where you empty your pockets when you walk in the house. And take that change that you find in the washing machine after you get through in the laundry room. Take that change when you get home and you empty your pockets. Put it in that container and begin to use that change for God. God says, in the Bible, God says, test me. I'm telling you, test him right here. Test him with that. Take your pocket change and see what God does with that. Look, here's the thing. I don't know how God does it. God's got different math than the math you learned in school. I'm telling you, when people who begin to give, who obey God through giving, when they do that, what you find out is your clothes last a little bit longer. The tires on your car last a little bit longer. You don't have as many breakdowns. You don't have as many medical issues. The medicine comes a little bit cheaper. Look, I'm just telling you. Now look, I'm not saying if you start tithing next week, all of a sudden you're going to be 100% healthy, ready to play in the NFL and go to the Olympics down in Brazil. I'm not saying any of those things. Because that's not in the Bible. But I'm saying this. What's in the Bible is when we obey God in everything, He blesses us. When the Israelites obeyed, they didn't have to go out and plant. God provided manna for them. And when they got tired of the manna and they complained, God provided quails for them. When they were thirsty, God provided water. Jesus in Matthew, he says, look at the flowers. Solomon in all of his glory wasn't clothed as pretty as the flowers. Look at the birds. They don't plant. They don't harvest. They just eat. Don't you think if God cares for a sparrow, He's going to care for you much more? The question is, who do you trust? As we close this morning, and I know this is a very challenging talk this morning, I'll say this. You think it's challenging to hear it, you need to be the one who has to prepare it. Because it will really wrap all over on you. But I challenge you this morning to make a commitment. And it's not between me and you. It's not between the board and you or the church and you. It's between you and the Lord. That you make a commitment to God about what you're willing to give. There are people in here who have talents. There are people in here who have gifts of service. That you're not giving. You're not tithing that to God. There are people in here who I'm telling you, you may have a little bit of pocket change. I get being on limited income. I understand what that's like. But I'm telling you, it all comes from God to begin with. And what happens is when we begin to give back to God, He blesses us and He begins to direct our paths. And He helps us to understand when to spend and when not to spend, and what to buy and what not to buy. I'll give you one last example, then I'll close. A young college student needed a new car to get back and forth to school. She didn't have a way to go. And so she began to pray and seek God's leadership on this new car. The day before she was going to go shopping, car shopping, she had a dream. And in her dream, everything was golden. Everything was yellow. The sun shone bright yellow. The flowers were all yellow flowers. Everywhere she looked, everything was yellow. So she's shopping. She gets on one car dealership, and there it is, a yellow car. She said, that's the car. God's leading me to buy that car. She bought that car, and the end of the story is just what you thought. It was a lemon. What I'm saying to you in this story is here. It's in this. Is just because we give doesn't mean that God is going to pour out the lottery on us. But trusting God and following His ways, He's going to guide our paths. I'm going to pray a commitment prayer out loud. I invite you to pray it silently between you and God as I pray this out loud. Let's pray. Father, I know you love me and you want what's best for me. I recognize that all I have and all I will ever have comes from you. I am more interested in pleasing you than in having more stuff. Lord God, I want you to have first place in my life. And I am willing to begin tithing as you have commanded. Tithing out of gratitude for all that you've done for me and in expectation that you will continue to provide for me. Right here, right now, I commit myself to begin tithing from all that I earn and all that I have back to you. I want to begin investing in eternity and in your kingdom. Help me to remain faithful in this commitment. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, let's join together and sing. So come on out. Let's join together and sing Family of God. Oh, you think so?